This is our spring presentation for career ministry, All Saints Career Ministry. And we're very pleased to have Paula Cleese to be our speaker tonight, so we're very excited. Before we do that, let's just bow our heads in prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us all together tonight. Thank you for safe travels. Thank you for those of us who are seeking to grow in our professional development and seeking to serve you with all that we do, learning to better ourselves. Thank you for our speaker. Help her with the words to help us learn what we can use to serve you better. And all this we ask in your name, in Christ's name we pray. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Okay, very good. So Paula is the owner of an executive search firm, Executive Search. And she specifically asked me not to say a lot about her because that's part of her presentation. So that makes my job really easy. I just say welcome, and then I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to her. So thank you, Paula. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you for sitting closer to the front. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not used to using a mic, but I understand that it's being filmed, so it's going to be helpful for the sound. And so if everyone would sit a little bit closer, take the closest next table in, that one's fine, just to be closer together. So it was a really, really hot day here in Dallas, and I was running between appointments. And I ran into La Madeline, and I was looking for a woman who I had never met before. Her name was Karen. I looked around, I figured out who Karen was, sat down and started the conversation, and I said to her, Karen, please forgive me. I'm not very prepared for our conversation today. I did print your resume, but I forgot it on my desk, and I neglected to look at your LinkedIn profile. I said to her, Karen, help me out. Tell me about yourself. The dreaded tell me about yourself question. And Karen started. She says, well, Paula, I am the Vice President of Marketing for Mary Kay Cosmetics. And she says, and I've been with Mary Kay in marketing for 18 years. And in these 18 years that I've been with Mary Kay, she says, I have done everything. She said, I have done promotions, and she says, you know Mary Kay. She says, I have done big events and little events and global events. She says, I've done work with our R&D team. She says, I've done work with our consultant sales team. She says, I've worked with senior management on crisis communication. I've done public relations, and I've done collateral. And Karen is going on and on and on and describing all the things that she has done in marketing. And I'm thinking, so what? So what? Because honestly, I ask you, who raises to the point of being the vice president of marketing or any other vice president in a big global company like Mary Kay, who hasn't done all those tactical things? I've done promotions, I've done collateral, I've worked on projects, I'm sure you have. I've worked online and offline, I've done Facebook and so on. Of course you have. So I got my so what monitor going. And I said to her, you know what? I said, Karen, let's stop for a minute. I said, I'm not a Mary Kay user myself, but living here in the Dallas community where the headquarters is, I said, Mary Kay looks a little differently to me now than it has. Tell me about that. She goes, oh, Paula, thank you for noticing. She says, I think that you have picked up on our branding effort. And I said, okay, well, that interests me. And Karen says, about 18 or 20 months ago, as part of the leadership team, she said, we went off for a woods weekend, and in this woods weekend, we were inventing our company for it to be 10 years in the future. And during that time, we were imagining what kind of company we'd be, what kind of customers we'd have, what kind of competition we'd have. how the world might change, and how Mary Kay would change with that. And she said, we all left with the assignment to begin working in our areas in getting to that future. And she said, well, I took away how to work with our brand in that development. I said, very interesting, Karen. I said, so how did it go? Now, Karen is a smart vice president of marketing. She knew all her KPIs. She said, well, Paula, we wanted to add this feature to what people thought of our brand. And we wanted to diminish this feature of our brand, you know, the white hair, got that. And she said, and we did so. I said, and you did so? She said, oh yes, we did pre and post brand surveys, so we knew what our customers thought about us. And I said, well, that's really interesting. She said, and furthermore, we did it ourselves. We didn't hire a branding company, we didn't hire a marketing company. Myself and 2 colleagues, we did some best practices work about what brand it is, and we did it ourselves. We did it ourselves, we did it under budget, and we did it just on time. Okay, now I learned something about Karen, right? She had her fingerprints all over this branding effort. And I said to her, Karen, if I've heard you correctly, are you an expert at revitalizing tired brands? And Karen had like a moment, right there in front of me, right there in La Madeleine. Yeah, Paula, I can revitalize tired brands. Now I ask you out here, I said, how does this sound to you? Oh, I do promotions and I do advertising and I do meetings and I work on crisis communications and I do this and I do that and I do the other thing. Or, hi, my name is Karen, I'm a vice president of marketing and I revitalize tired brands. Boom. What a difference that makes in how she introduces herself. Here's a little information I hadn't shared with you about Karen. When I met her, it was 2008. Anybody here? You're not old enough. But you're not old enough. But those of us who are, we remember what the economy in 2008 was. Because the day I met Karen, she was the vice president of marketing for Mary Kay Cosmetics, but she would only work there 1 more week. She was being laid off. So she was about to go into a very crowded labor market with very few jobs and a lot of vice presidents of marketing available. I do this and I do this and I do this and I do this and I do this. Or, my name is Karen, I'm a vice president of marketing, I revitalize tired brands. What opportunities do you think she'll get when she speaks like that about herself? The rest of the hour that we had together, we didn't talk about anything else. We sat there and said, you want to stay in Dallas? What are all the tired brands we know? And we wrote them out. These are the companies that needed Karen. And that became her target list for finding her next job. I call that short, truthful, powerful statement about your professional life, I call that the art of hello. Let me introduce myself. My name is Paula Calise. I'm an executive recruiter, and I fill hard to fill positions. I don't care if you guys remember anything else about me. That's all you have to know about me. My name is Paula Calise. I'm a recruiter. I fill hard to fill positions. Because my definition of my value, the definition of my brand as an executive recruiter is so easy to remember and simple, hard to fill positions, that about 10 years ago I stopped making sales calls. The community here in Dallas knows me well enough where all of my business is either repeat from current clients or referred to me. That is being rich, I'll tell you. Not rich in money, rich in opportunities. I really have great clients and I have great friends in the community who act in my behalf when I'm not there because they know exactly what I do and they can repeat it. Let me introduce you to another friend of mine. Her name is Shauna Black. Some of you might know Shauna. In fact, I saw her this morning at a UTD function. I hadn't seen her in a while. Shauna and I met for the first time, I would say 2009-ish. We were at a business meeting for entrepreneurial women, and we were going to help each other with networking and so forth. And I introduced myself, and I told her what I did, and she introduced herself and told me what she did. I would say 8 or 9 years went by, and the summer before COVID, which would that be 19, she was at a lectern introducing a speaker. She didn't introduce herself, but she was introducing the speaker, and I looked at her. And after the meeting, I walked up to her and I said, Shauna, I don't know if you remember me, but I remember you. My name is Paula Calise. I shook her hand. I'm an executive recruiter. I fill hard to fill positions. I said, don't tell me. She said, what? I said, don't tell me. I said, you're Shauna Black, and you help manufacturing plants become LEED certified. And she was like, yes? How do you remember that? And I said, Shauna, it might have been 8 or 9 years ago, but not one time ever have I ever met anybody who said that to me with such clarity, that I help manufacturing plants become LEED certified. You guys know LEED is green, environmentally clean, and so forth. What Shauna Black did not say to me 7 or 8 or 10 years earlier was, hi, my name is Shauna Black. I recently opened a business and I do consulting on helping green technologies, and I do it in plants, and I do that because I used to work for Texas Instrument, where I traveled the world and helped them with it. Very forgettable. But something this clear, I help manufacturing plants become LEED certified, I got it, and I remembered it years and years later. And the amazing part about that is, I have a pretty bad memory. Plus, in my profession, I meet thousands and thousands of people. Most of them introduce themselves very poorly, and I forget them. A few people introduce themselves very well, and I remember them. And Shauna was one. You know what I forgot to do, and I apologize, because it's a little important. Let me go back. See the little red square there, and it says archetype. The archetype for Karen, I Revitalize Tired Brands, is it's the biggest, baddest thing I've ever done, if I were Karen. She identifies her career and introduces her brand by the biggest, baddest thing she ever done at the time, which is revitalize that tired brand. But in Shauna's case, it's her newest accomplishment. Because when I met Shauna, she had just got into the business of consulting around LEED certification for manufacturing plants, based on what she had been doing at TI for a long time. So these are 2 archetypes, and as we go on, I'll introduce you to some more of my friends and some more of the archetypes, any one of which might be the way that you choose to introduce yourself and introduce your brand, because that's what this is about. This is about introducing yourself in such a way that you'll be remembered, and it is the way in which you discuss who you are, what your brand is. Let me describe what the art hello is. It is the distillation of your professional life. Here it is. This is what we're talking about tonight. It is the distillation of your professional life. It is not everything you've ever done. It is not every credential you have. It's not every course you've ever taken. It's not the completion of every program that you've completed at your office. It is the distillation of your personal, your professional life. To do this well, to introduce yourself in such a way that you'll be remembered for what you bring to the table, it needs to be meaningful. Like, I meet people and they say, hi, I'm the hardest working person you'll ever meet. Okay, you and about 50 million other people who might want to say that about themselves. It's not meaningful because it's not specific enough. It needs to be authentic and true. I'll introduce you later to somebody where not so authentic, not true, and I saw right through it. It can't be ambiguous. It can't be like, I met somebody, I'm the Swiss Army knife of corporate America. I don't even know what that means. I don't understand that. So it can't be something that people can't get. It can differentiate you from other people in your profession, and I'll give you an example of that. And it's memorable. Here's the reason it's memorable. If it's short, and it differentiates you, and I can understand it. You have a real shot at being memorable. Now, here's a couple reasons why you want to be memorable. Those of you who are here because you're in a job search, employers are going to see a lot of candidates. And if you can stand out in any way, including the first salvo that comes out of your mouth, great. Trust me, I probably see 200 or 300 resumes a week. I do sometimes up to 9 or 10 interviews a day. At the end of the day, who do I talk to? I don't even know. It's good that I take notes. So it matters. But also, if you're not in a job search, but you are building a business or building a reputation in your profession, even if it's not a business, what happens when you are memorable is that you can build a cadre of people who can act in your behalf when you're not there if they know specifically who you are, what you deliver, what your brand is. I mentioned I haven't made a sales call in a long time, and that's because my compadres, my friends, my colleagues, they act in my behalf when I'm not there, and they say, oh, you're looking for something really unusual, or you've been doing this job search for a long time, you haven't been able to fill it, you need to call my friend Paula. That's what she does. She fills hard positions, boom, 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 boom. So it really is powerful when people know who you are. Even inside a company, they can say, hey, you need to call Larry for that. And then that person can deliver your brand promise, your article of introduction, and you might be just right for a new opportunity within a company, a promotion, taking on a team, taking on a project. Okay? Done right, your art of hello introduction, the last line there, is your brand promise. So let's look at the people that you know already. You know Karen. Karen revitalizes tired brands. That's her brand promise to her next employer, isn't it? You met Shauna Black. She helps manufacturing plants become LEED certified. That's her brand promise to plant managers. When I say I feel hard to fill positions, that's my brand promise to my next client. So it's working not only to identify me as my art hello introduction, something that's memorable, but it also serves as the promise that I leave in the marketplace for my professional work. A few words are working really hard. That's a lot of mileage to get off just a few words. Okay, I'm going to stop and ask for questions, concerns, ideas, and so forth. Can I hear from anyone? Yes,
Do you have a rule of thumb, a number of words that you like?
and you hear that? Laura asked if there's a number of words that I like. You betcha there is. In fact, you're a few minutes earlier than I'm getting to that, but for asking, I'm going to give you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Yes, the fewer the number of words, the better. I like 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe 10. Because after 9, 10, 11 words, what you can probably get is a good, a person can hear it and get it, but can they repeat it verbatim? And that's where you lose people, is their ability to repeat it verbatim. And if they can't repeat it verbatim, then they're kind of tap dancing for you and getting it maybe a little right, maybe a little bit wrong, right? That kind of thing. So the fewer number of words, the better. I think I brought some examples of editing from 14 words to 7 words and what that looks like. Let's see if I can get to that point for you, Laura. Thank you for that question. Here's the question I normally get at this point. We're talking about 7 or 8 words. Follow-up? Yes. I am more than a one-liner. I have a degree. I have an advanced degree. I've worked my tail off all these years. I've worked nights and weekends. I've been away from my family when I didn't want to be. I've gotten extra certificates. I'm sorry, I am more than a one-liner. And you know what? Absolutely you are. And this is how the art of hello takes care of that. Having an art of hello introduction, something short that people can remember you by, is just a jumping off point for getting to know your brand. And let me give you an example. I'll use myself, since I know myself, my brand pretty well. So all I say when I meet you is, is, hi, my name is Paula Calise. I'm an executive recruiter. I fill hard-to-fill positions. It's at the top of my LinkedIn profile. It's at the top of my bio. It's on my business card. It's in my signature block. Everywhere where I want my brand to be, it is filling hard-to-fill positions, period. But when I have a conversation, Tracy and I are starting to know each other. We either are corresponding, we're meeting at a business meeting or so forth. I might want to, at that moment, deepen our relationship in helping her know more about me. So if Tracy is a hiring manager, I might say to Tracy, Tracy, I'm going to help you fill this job the way you would yourself if you had the time. And I have that very scripted. I know exactly what I'm going to say to a hiring manager. If you had the time, because that's their pain point, right? Okay. Lizzie, you're the vice president of human resources at Tracy's company. Lizzie, thank you for inviting me into your company to help Tracy. Lizzie, I'm going to fill this job and I'm going to fulfill all the processes and procedures that your own internal staff follow when filling a job. Because what does an HR executive want? She doesn't want a renegade. She doesn't want like someone mucking around in her business and saying things about her company and so forth that her own internal recruiters would say. So when I talk to Tracy as a hiring manager, I save her time. When I talk to Lizzie as vice president of human resources, I meet her procedures and practices. And I call these pillars. See down there, it says pillars fill out your story. I would recommend that if you choose to have an article of introduction, and I hope that after this hour together, you'll choose to have an article of introduction, that you also take the time to create 2, 3, 4, 5 pillars. And these pillars are used to deepen the relationship and move it forward and provide someone with more information about you, about what you deliver. And they can be used when the appropriate time comes up. Now, in my LinkedIn profile, and in your LinkedIn profiles, because we all should or do have one, right? After your name and the title that you want to use, and your LinkedIn, your article of introduction or whatever, you have 2,200 characters to use in the summer. So you may want to put every one of your pillars in the summer. Excellent at this, accomplished at that, certified at this, all those things. But you don't want to core dump them all on somebody as they're getting to know you. You want to kind of pick through them and think, what is this person going to be most interested in? I'll give you one of the other pillars that I have. I sometimes work for very big companies, very, very big companies, Fortune 200 companies and stuff like that. Those companies can choose any recruiter. They can hire Korn Ferry, Spencer Stuart, Heidrick & Struggles, Egon Zehnder, all the big global companies, right? And here I'm sitting across the desk from someone going, do you know if they're going to pick me? Here's the reason they're going to pick me. When I need it, I use this pillar. I'm very proud that my company, since 2019, has been chosen by Forbes as one of the top 10 recruiting companies in the USA. So when I say that to a big company, now I am in the company of Egon Zehnder, Spencer Stuart, Heidrick & Struggles, Korn Ferry. Absolutely, because those are the other 9 that fill out the top 10. My little teeny-weeny little company in Dallas has had that honor. But I don't tell everybody that. Everybody doesn't need to know that. But when I need to pull out the big gun, I have a big gun. So those are what your pillars are. They fill out your story as an executive. They fill out your brand promise. But they're individual pillars, and you want to scribe them and be able to have them fall off the top of your tongue when you need them. So you're not a one-liner. Any other questions that I can answer at this moment? You get a cup of coffee for it. Okay, moving on. Okay, Jennifer. Okay, so I'm at an event at SMU, and it's an EMBA event, and that is students that go to school at nights and weekends, but they work during the week. And I go up to a young woman, her name is Jennifer, and because she's an EMBA, I know that she's working as well. And I said to her, hi Jennifer, I'm an advisor here, blah, blah, blah. Told her my story, I'm an executive recruiter, blah, blah. And I said, when you're working, what do you do? boring job, Paula. Uh-oh, that's not a good way to start. She's looking at her shoes here. I am a water engineer. Okay, Jennifer, I don't know anything about water engineering. I've put a lot of people, 600 or 700 people into jobs that are with water engineering. In my mind, I'm going, water engineer. Maybe she does the flushing system for tall buildings. I don't know, right? I don't know. So I said to her, Jennifer, I don't know anything about a water engineer. What do you do? And she said, well, I work with the cities of Coppell and Addison, and I work with Richardson and DeSoto, and I work with Duncanville, and I work with 3 of the Cullen counties and the HEB's towns and so forth. And I'm going, well, okay, that's a lot, okay. What do you do? And she says, well, I work with their data. She said, I work with rainfall and ponding and trees per capita and so on and so forth. And what she's talking about sounded like a census study to me. Okay. So I said, oh, that's interesting. What do you do? One time. And she said, looking at her shoes, well, I write their 30-year water plans so that they can continue to grow and not run out of water. Oh man, that is not boring work. Think of what Jennifer does. She keeps all of us in iced tea and showers, is what she does. Good girl, love that. And I said to her, Jennifer, if I've heard you right, you're an economic development professional keeping North Texas cities in water for decades to come. You know what she says? Can I say that? And I say, yes, you can. Well, here is Jennifer, about 4 or 5 years out of undergraduate school, where Texas A&M did give her a degree that she has on her wall, and it says water engineer. And she's taken that title of water engineer from her degree, and she's carried it around all these years, but she's really developed quite a fabulous career in those few years. And today, she's way more than, yes, she still might do the technical work that a water engineer does, right? But she really has become an economic development professional, keeping all of us in water so that our North Texas communities can continue to grow and thrive. Wow. This archetype you see in the little red symbol is my work in a bigger context. Because young Jennifer never looked above what she's doing at her desk every day and said, you know, what's the real impact of the work I do? Well, the real impact of the work you do is you're an economic development professional. Yay! I mean, I see some of you taking notes. Thank you for doing that. There's a handout that has most of this in it. We'll get to that in a little while. So that's my young friend, Jennifer. I'm just going to look at the time since I don't have any. What is the article of not? It is not an advertisement for your employer. This is the worst case. This is what it sounds like when it's bad. Hi, my name is James. I work for AT&T. AT&T has 350,000 professionals working in 126 countries with 5G technology, blah, blah. Yeah, James, I pay my AT&T bill, I know. But I still know what you do. So it's not an advertisement for your employer. Now, if you're an entrepreneur and you feel really close, or you're a third-generation family business and you just have to get that family business name out there, well, yes, God bless you, do that. But for the most of us, it is our professional brand and what we bring to the table, not an advertisement for our employer. Now, if you are the paid spokesman for your company, well, it's different, you have to go do that. It is not bragging. Why is it not bragging? Come on, I need some hands. I'm here alone up here. Two big reasons why it's not bragging.
Because if you got it, it's not bragging, or...
Okay, yes, because it's true. You're absolutely right. The first reason that it's not bragging is because it's true and it's honest, right? What's the second reason? Here's the interesting part. If you've heard me say, what does Jennifer do? She's an economic development professional, keeping North Texas in water. What do you know that Karen does? Karen revitalizes entire brands. What does Paula do? I help companies fill hard-to-fill positions. What is the common theme of all those? This is what we do for others. This is not bragging. This is what we give to others. This is how this is our give back for being employed or our give back for being a professional. It is not about me. You want to hear me? Well, guys, I just told you that I was on that Forbes list. And if you don't believe me, come outside and I'll show you my Maserati. You know, it sounds stupid. You get the gag reflex when it's bragging, right? That's all about me, which is also not true. I drive no car. Nothing like Maserati. Someone actually thought that was true. So it's not bragging because it's what you did, what you do, what you deliver, what you promise, what what people count on you to do. That's why it's not bragging. It's not everything you've ever accomplished. It's the distillation. You don't go back and say, well, I graduated from college in 1989, and I took my first job, and then I did this, and I did that. Oh, no one's going to listen. Honestly, no one's going to listen. It is not a one-liner. We talked about that. Yes, your article below is a short one-liner, but you back it up with pillars. And this is how you get to know me more deeply. This is more information about my profession and so forth, okay? It's not lifelong and permanent. My friend Shauna Black, who I introduced you to already, who does what? You remember? She has manufacturing plants and Code Complete certified. She has pivoted her career, does something different now, and I've helped her with a new article below introduction for herself. And in my opinion, it is something that your career cannot afford to be without. Is that a double negative? It is something that your career requires. How's that? Is that better? Anybody here an English major? And I'll tell you why. You have worked hard to establish your career. You have put in long hours. You are educated. You continue to learn new skills. Well, why not be known for that? And be drawn into new opportunities that people can introduce you to if they remember who you are. It is not the old-fashioned elevator speech. Has anybody been to a career coaching thing where they want to teach you the elevator speech? Come on, has anybody ever saw something on that? Okay, elevator speeches are sometimes called 30-second drills, right? I actually went to a meeting at one of the big outplacement firms. I don't remember if it was Christmas or one of those guys, but one of the big outplacement firms. These people professionally help people get jobs. And one of the women in the room introduced herself with this exact language because I met her for lunch and I asked her to bring it because I was so enamored by her. She said, I am a senior manager in commercial insurance with a focus in multi-state workers' compensation claims, programs, and risk consulting. I drive profitability and compliance via accountability, responsibility, and flexibility. I thrive in creating environments that are diverse, inclusive, and even a little fun. I'm a dynamic, principled, inclusive leader who builds teams and creates cultures of success where individual skills are developed, providing an exceptional customer experience, and I meet and exceed company goals. I accomplish company goals, personal development, and I meet or exceed my customers' expectations. She had memorized this, and it was flawless. 88 words. Does anybody know what she does? Can anybody figure out what she does? So I had lunch with her. She brings the text with her. I didn't want to make her feel bad, but after a minute or two, I said, okay, if I heard you right, through workers' comp insurance, I return injured workers to work faster. Through workers' comp insurance, I return injured workers to work faster. 11 words. Now I get it. But all that razzmatazz, I didn't know what all that meant, although it did have a little fun. I like that part. I like the fun part. So this is not the old-fashioned elevator speech or 30-second drill. If you're using that, you can throw it away. Although you don't want to throw it away. There's probably some gems in here that can be her pillars, right? Helping develop herself and her colleagues. That might be a pillar that she wants to pull out and isolate that. So that is what the article is not. I want to introduce you to another friend of mine, His name is John. I was at an event at SMU. I live in the SMU neighborhood, so I'm at a lot of events there. And a very tall, good-looking man. He had his name tag. He was John. I went up to him. I introduced myself. John, my name is Paula. I'm an executive recruiter. I fill hard-to-fill positions. I said, John, tell me about yourself. And he goes, I'm a corporate real estate guy. Well, that wasn't a lot of information. First of all, I already got that fact that he's a guy. Got that. Corporate real estate is an entire profession. It's an entire industry. I don't know what he does. So I said, hey, John, help me out here. Tell me, in your corporate real estate career, tell me about a point of pride, something that you've done that you're really happy with, you're really proud of. Excuse me, I'll get a little water. And John says, well, Paula, it was a while back, maybe the late 90s, early 2000s. And he said, I found myself in New York in Times Square. And he said, it's not the Times Square of today. It was seedy back then. It was kind of run down. There was, litter and graffiti. And he said, I stood around and I saw all these really magnificent buildings. And this one was partially empty, and that one was partially empty, and that one was partially empty, and that was partially empty. And it occurred to me right there on the street in Times Square that we at Nike, who he was working for at the time, he was scouting locations for Nike, he said, we could really use all this prime real estate. I bet we could get it for a deal. And what he was thinking up, he went back and he made a proposal to his managers with help from the marketing department, help from the finance department, and it was a business case that said, I recommend we do something called Nike Town. And we take a big space, and we sell merchandise over here, and we put up a little basketball court. We sell merchandise over here, we put up a little handball court. We sell merchandise over here, we put up a little juice bar. Well, what this man, John, was talking about back then is what today we call experiential retail. But that term wasn't even coined. He was thinking this up in advance of this whole industry movement around experiential retail. And he tried to sell this into his executives, and they said, no, it's too expensive, no one else is doing it, why should we bother? And he said it took him 3 years to sell it in. And they finally said, okay, John, you've worn us down, you've given us business case after business case, fine, let's do it. Do it somewhere where if it fails, it won't be too noticed. And I can't remember what John told me. He chose somewhere in Asia, so maybe it was Hong Kong or Singapore, something like that. And the day it opened, what they found, because John was there during the opening, is that people were lining up around the block to get into Nike Town, because they had done some local advertising, right? And not only that, but the international press had picked it up, and it was a sensation. It was an absolute sensation. John said that during his tenure at Nike, they opened 6 of these, Milan, New York, and so on and so forth. Wow. That's cool. I said, John, that is so cool. Thank you for sharing that story. He said, well, Paul, if you don't mind, there might be another story I'd like to tell you about. I said, sure. He said, so I was working for Starbucks, and I was scouting for locations. He says, it's the afternoon, I'm pretty tired, I'm on a highway, and I think, boy, would I love a cup of coffee. So he gets off at the nearest exit, and the only place he could find to have a cup of coffee was McDonald's. Pulls through McDonald's, he gets a cup of coffee, he's back on the highway, and goes, oh man, I think this was brewed this morning. Now, this is a while back, before Mac Cafe, because now McDonald's spends a lot of time, money, and effort to make great coffee, but this is back then. And he gets brainstormed. He says, we at Starbucks, we can do better than this. And he brings a proposal back to his company, with the help of marketing and finance and so forth, the full proposal, and it is, for the first time ever, Starbucks drive-thrus. This guy, John, proposed Starbucks drive-thru the first time. And his company saying, yeah, that's a bad idea because we need people to come in and interface with the barista and notice that the counter has a live edge and there's real leather on the couch, and when you grind the beans, you hear the beans. And he's going, no, I really think people will use the word drive-thru. And he wears them down. He wears them down. They finally say, fine. John, retrofit a half dozen stores, put in your darn drive-thru, see what happens. And what happens? Month after month after month after month, Does anybody come from the retail industry? You know what the flash means? It's the same selling day from the previous year and this year, and you judge whether it's up, down, or neutral, right? You see if you're going in the right direction, so you get a flash every day. Flashes are up over 10%, only attributable to the drive-thru. The store location didn't change, the product didn't change, food didn't change. And John proves that Starbucks can have a successful, engagement with a customer when you drive thru. Holy smokes, who is this guy? Right? So he's like, I'm a corporate real estate guy. John, you're way more than that. I say, John, if I'm hearing you right, in commercial real estate, you're $1 billion brand builder on the back of old-fashioned brick and mortar retail. I really like this art of hello introduction. Why? First of all, there's the alliteration. Billion, builder, back, brick. So there's some memory tools for alliteration, but also there's a slight social commentary there, right? Old-fashioned brick and mortar in the time of Amazon and online, right? So this one can be very, very memorable. I don't know if John's still introducing himself this way, but I hope he is. Because this is really so much more. I'm a corporate real estate guy. No, you're a genius. You're $1 billion brand builder on the back of old-fashioned brick and mortar retail. The archetype here is the results of what I do. The results of what John does builds businesses, draws millions, billions of dollars into the businesses that he works for. Wow! That is a wow. Can I stop and ask for any other questions? If not, I'm going to keep going. You're going to have to listen to me. Yeah? Okay. That's nice. I'm just once again checking the time. Let's talk about why I recommend that you put in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it takes to come up with a perfect art of hello introduction of your own. The ROI is amazing. How many times do you think since 2008 have I said, I feel hard to fill positions? 100,000 times? And then it's in all the media, everywhere I go. And I spent, 4 or 5 minutes thinking about it back then. Now it might have taken me a little longer. The ROI is just tremendous on this. When you get it done and it's right, you'll use it. It's very durable. You'll use it over and over again. The ROI in spending 10 or 20 or 30 minutes is fantastic. So for that reason, we have a finance guy here. He'll tell you high ROI is the way you want to go, right? You always want to go to ROI. So let me introduce you to another friend of mine. His name is Mike. I'm sitting next to Mike at a function, and I introduce myself, as you know I do. I feel part of the positions. And he says, I'm a financial advisor, and I help put people over their financial finish lines. Ooh, I like that. Don't you see somebody swimming and touching the wall, or running and breaking the laser beam, I put people over their financial finish lines. I thought that was very clever. He and I decided to have coffee, that one my mind. About a week later, and I pull out my pad and I say to him, Mike, tell me some stories about clients who really love your work and who would recommend you. And Mike tells me 6 stories, and I was very diligent. I wrote down all the stories. But I don't have time for 6 of them, I'll tell you one. He said the previous year he met a woman who had, after 40 years, had just retired from being a school teacher. And he met her in his office, and she was a nervous wreck. She really thought that she was going to outlive whatever funds she had. She had a small pension from her school district. She had Social Security. She didn't really have much savings in her life. She didn't know how to manage money. She had spent her whole life educating our children and not really focusing on her own needs. And Mike took some time with her, tried to understand what was going on and why she was so distressed that day. One of the reasons she was so distressed that day is Christmas had just passed, and she didn't feel as if she had enough money to buy a plane ticket to visit her daughter and her grandchildren. She also didn't think she had enough money to send her grandchildren presents that year. She got a $10 bill, put it in a Christmas card, and that's all they got from her. And she was distraught over that. Well, John begins to work with her, understands her circumstances, looks at what she has, the income she has, and so forth. He describes it, says, not as bad as you really think it is. and helps her recover emotionally from her fear of dying destitute. And he visits with her after working with her all year the following Christmas. After the following Christmas. And she hugs him when she comes in. She says, Mike, you changed my life. She said, this year I knew because you taught me that I had enough money to visit my children, my grandchildren, and I did. And it was a wonderful Christmas. Oh my gosh, I get to Clem just telling the story. And Mike tells me 5 other stories about a couple, about a young person, about a father who had twin daughters who were sophomores in high school, and his worry was how he was going to get them through college without them assuming college debt and so forth. In every one of those stories, people were very happy with their outcomes, but none of them had gotten over their financial finish lines. Like, he described somebody that said, yeah, and after I was done working with them, they bought a condo in Huddle. Or they bought a antique car from the Jay Leno collection. Nothing like that. These are just ordinary good people who started feeling what? Here's mine. I help my clients feel comfortable and confident in their financial futures. That's what Mike's gift was. In fact, Mike was such an empathetic person, he's still an empathetic person, such a good listener, so careful in helping people feel better about their financial situations, that if he were not a financial analyst, I mean, he could be part of the clergy. You know, he could be a wonderful bedside doctor or a nurse, someone in a helping profession, someone in an empathy profession. But he's just good with numbers and he's a financial analyst. The archetype here is the essence of who I am. And the essence of who Mike is he helps people feel comfortable and confident in their financial futures. So these are not his, I get people over their financial finish lines. That's just a tagline. That's a marketing gimmick. But it is not true to who he is. And after I got to know him a little bit, I figured that right out. So being authentic is everything in helping you build your brand and for your brand to be known. Everything. Let me introduce you to another friend of mine, someone that you might know. Does anybody know Bill Wallace? Bill Wallace runs Success North Dallas. Third Wednesday of every month at 7:30 in the morning at Crescentwood Country Club, not even far from here. He's been doing this for 30 years. And he brings great speakers to their lectern. This is what Bill Wallace says about himself. I introduce the right people for the right reasons at the right time. And he has probably introduced 15,000 people. I don't know, I'm guessing. But he is a consummate matchmaker. You have a need? I know someone who can do it. You want to work? I've got someone to introduce you to. You're a student? You want an opportunity? Let's get you an internship. I mean, he constantly, his job, he's just the best matchmaker ever. Let me tell you a little story about this. So I'm in a session like this at a company called Epsilon. You might know them, maybe the world's largest marketing company. And about 2 weeks later, I get a call from a woman named Catherine, who's in the audience. And Catherine says to me, Paula, guess who I met? I said, I don't know. She says, I met Bill Wallace. I said, good for you. She goes, yep, I was in a meeting pre-COVID. She said, my back was to some man. And she heard this man say, I introduced the right people at the right time for the right reasons. She said, I spun around, I put my finger on his thigh, and I said, hey, you must be Bill Wallace. Paul Calise told me you'd say that about yourself. And Bill's like, yeah, Paul's my friend. But how cool is that? Your brand can shine even when you're not facing somebody if it's truthful. The archetype here is my repeated successes. He does this all the time. That is my archetype as well. I feel hard to fill jobs all the time. We're going to run out of time. Does anybody have an extra 5 minutes to hang around to the end? I'll keep going. Last person I want to introduce you to is Christina. So we're in a session like this, but we're in 2 hours. The first hour we did this, the second hour we prepared up, and we helped each other write our little introductions. And Christina's sitting there, we had cards in front of us, you guys have stickers. We had cards in front of us, and I went, and she's like, Christina, you're not buying this. This isn't comfortable for you. What's the matter? And she says, Paula, I know I have to work, but it's not how I want to be known. And I didn't understand what that meant. So I sat down and had a conversation with her. About 3 minutes into it, I figured it out. By day, I sell cloud technology, but by heart, I advocate for organ donation. She wasn't buying it because the cloud technology thing didn't ring her bells. It didn't get her up in the morning. It was her advocacy for organ donation that really spoke to this young woman. And when I learned why, I met her, she was probably 32 or 35 years old. She had given a kidney to a total stranger so that person may live. How nice is that? I call this archetype my aspirational archetype. So it's this and this. The second part is the aspiration. So I do this class at SMU in the MBA program. I do this class for the law school, and those people are aspiring to be the professionals they want to be. So today I'm at Cox School of Business, and I'm going into the world to do this. So this is the aspirational one. When you do two things or one is close to your heart, this is the way to bridge that and to talk about two things. But once again, you notice it is short. Let's talk about skippable mistakes. We'll probably talk about this, the list method. I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this. That was Karen, right? And I got the so what monitor going. Don't do that. Chronological. Started working in 1989, 1992. Went to this company in 1997. I got this promotion. Nobody will remember that. Nobody cares. MBA speak. Oh, I have to do this for you because, okay, MBA speak. Every fancy word you ever learned in the MBA program rolled up into one sentence. And I hear this all the time, guys. This is not made up. This is real. Okay. I help clients align their strategies, business models, and operating models to achieve competitive advantage and to achieve corporate growth, profitability, and performance growth goals. It's a lot. What do you think this person does? You keep guessing. Okay. I was with this person about 5 minutes. I help small brands tell big stories. This is a marketing person. I help small brands tell big stories. You think you might remember that? Yes. How about this? I help clients align their strategy, business model, blah, 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 blah. Put it away. I think I have one that I even like better. Here's one. This was true. This is the way this man introduced himself. I help companies free up resources by leveraging technology to enhance operational efficiencies by maximizing productivity and drive cost savings and bottom line. 24 words. What does that person do? I'll give you 600 guesses.
They fire you.
Nope. I'm your friend in the printing business. What a difference. Blah, 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 blah. No, I'm your friend in the printing business. So put away the MBA speak. Your job title, don't use it unless it's a very descriptive job. My friend Marilyn Wiley, she's the dean of the School of Business at UNT, yes. And she's the only dean. It's okay, we get that. You can use that title, right? No problem. But if you were a project manager, okay. So I went to LinkedIn, United States project manager. Guess how many I found? 9,800,000. So if you say you're a project manager, you can work in any industry, any profession, at any level. It's just like saying, I breathe. So that may not be the best way to introduce yourself. Your degree name, we heard earlier, Jennifer, water engineer. No. You got a degree called water engineering, but now you're an economic development professional helping North Texas save water for decades to come. And inconsistency. If you introduce yourself different every time you introduce yourself, you don't have any shot for people to remember you or for you to have brand consistency. So those are the skippable mistakes. For those of you who want to land a job or get career advancement, this is why I think an Art of Hello introduction helps you a lot. It informs your target market for search. And I'll give you an example of that. Karen, I revitalized tired brands. Where do you think Karen should go to look for a job? All the tired brands. So that may be a real indicator of where your next job is going to be if you can identify yourself as being helpful in that circumstance, right? It demonstrates conscious competence. If you go and meet 15 people and only one of them can define what they bring to the table, that's powerful. I'll give you a story. So I'm doing this at big church on Central North here. I can't think of the name of the church, I'm so sorry. But this kind of organization. And a man came up to me after and he said, Paul, I wish I had met you 3 weeks ago. He says, I've been out of work for a year, and 3 weeks ago, I went to an interview, and instead of meeting the hiring manager, they wanted to speed up the process, so they did 3 people were interviewing me at the same time. And he said, they started by saying, tell me about yourself. And he said, I went deer in headlights. He said, had I known what my article of introduction was in 2 or 3 pillars, he said, that job would have been mine today, and that was my dream job. And I don't have that today. That really hurt me. It sets you apart from most other people. It prepares you for that terrible, terrible question, tell me about yourself. It's the question I started with parents. Karen, I don't have your resume, tell me about yourself, terrible. And then you'll have those pillars to increase your conversation. So this is why this is super, super helpful for advancing your career. This is, we have a handout now. This is where all the notes, this is how you do it. 3 steps to do this so that you may have this for yourself. The first step is the know yourself. If you have the opportunity to work on your article with a partner, I would highly recommend that. If you can do it yourself, yes, you can do it yourself. But if you have a partner, someone you met tonight, or somebody who can quickly come up with a learning curve and figure this out, that would be great. Force yourself to see forest for the trees. What I mean by that is think, this is the distillation of your professional life, so think about all the stories that are your success stories and what they mean across all those stories. See patterns across your success stories. So help somebody by hearing your 6 accomplishments in my career. It doesn't have to be in the current job, because if it's the essence of who you are as one of those archetypes, you're the essence of who you are in this job, and your last job, and your last job, and even how you exhibit your skills at home. So help somebody help you by giving you by hearing some of your success stories. You heard me do that with John. When John said, here's the Nike story, and here's the Starbucks story, and I said, you're $1 billion brand owner on back to the report. Had I not heard those stories, I couldn't guess that. But I heard the stories. A 360-degree perspective. If you have ever done a really big project, think about what your boss either said to you about your performance in that job, or what he would have said or she would have said had you asked. What about your coworker? What did they say about your performance? What about someone who reported to you? What about an internal or an external client or business partner? Try to get a 300-degree perspective on how you performed in a particular circumstance. That might give you insight as to what you deliver when you deliver. What do your fans say about you? If you've worked more than a year or 2, you have fans at the office or in your job. I know you do. These are people who come to you and rely on you when they come to you. So Anthony, in your job, when I come to you and I say, hey Anthony, what do you think about this? Or I don't understand this. Or how do I do this? I come to Anthony because I'm a fan of his and I know he's going to deliver something in return that I need. That, what do your fans say about you can give you a lot of insight into what your brand promises and what you deliver. It really can. Or your biggest status accomplishment. That was Karen, right? She revitalizes hired brands. But she didn't start out that way. Do this, and do this, and do this, and do this. It was the biggest status thing we ever did. So this is the core of what you can do to come up with an article of introduction, is to get to know yourself. Then, if you want to look at the capstone archetypes, and it's on the page there, don't start with this. You say, hey, this is interesting. It looks like mine is the essence of who I am, whatever. So this is just a reveal one. Build your pillars. And build your pillars are 2, 3, 4, 5 stories that you can tell about yourself that fill out, or your credentials. This is more information about you as a deliverer of services, of products, of brand, of value, right? And those are your pillars. And then finally test it. The first test is your gut check. Like, can I really say that about myself? Do I feel good about that? Can I, does that feel good? Second is Casbah. Is it clear? Is it actual? Is it specific? Is it brief? Is it authentic? Remember, inauthentic doesn't play. Yeah, it sounds like a good timeline, but like Mike, I found out that just wasn't true. Nobody got over their financial finish lines. But he was empathetic and helped people feel comfortable, confident. And finally, phone a friend. You might call someone and say, hey, I'm thinking about introducing myself in this way. Deliver it to them. See if it feels right. If they say, well, yeah, it sounds just like you, and then ask the hard question. Can you repeat what I just said? After 1 or 2 or 3 repetitions, if that person can get it and start repeating it, you know you're onto something. You want something memorable like that, easy to remember. The only thing that I didn't cover that somebody in this room might feel good about is colloquial. And colloquial sells if it's right for you. So I go to a meeting, let me give you an example, and I meet a man, he comes up to me, puts out his hand, introduces himself as Dan Nye, the banking guy. And I love that, right? It's the play on words to the science guy, Bill. And he said, I'm Dan Nye, the banking guy. I will tell you, I will never forget that. So if there's something that's colloquial or fun, and it fits your personality, and it works, well then by all means, use that. So that's the only little thing I didn't put in the discussion. We're done, except answering questions or making observations and so forth.
Thank you, Paula. That was just fabulous and so many great takeaways. So All Saints is making a donation to the SPCA in honor of your son, so we thank you for that. And also just to say a few things about career ministry, we have a fabulous group of volunteers. Tony's here, Matt's here, and we are here for support for anyone who wants it. So I know some of these things sound so easy when she says it, and I'm like, okay, how do we do that in real life? So we're happy to talk through some of this with you, so just reach out. My business cards are out front. We have Zoom meetings typically on Wednesdays, and next week we have another fabulous speaker who is going to be talking about networking, and just send me an email so you can get that invite. It's going to be an hour and a half. Usually they're an hour, so next Wednesday is from noon to 1:30. But other than that, you're free to mingle or leave, and just definitely connect with us, and we're so happy to have you. Thank you.